I'm going to ask this dude what the devil looks like.
Wow.
And
what the hell, man?
I'm surprised you're still sitting here.
you know, I just went up to him and I was like, hey, mate, what's the devil look like?
G'day guys, welcome to Vibe Union Podcast, episode 24. How bloody exciting is that? It just keeps going. Off the top, we want to pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Sovereignty was never ceded, and it's all of our job to make sure that a bright future is constructed for not just them, but for everybody on this land. Guys, we've got two very special guests who I just met like 15 minutes ago. We're very, very excited. They spend a lot of time on Melbourne streets doing all kinds of weird shit. Guys, how are we doing? Introduce yourselves.
Not too bad. You should start.
All right. Well, My name's Jay, and I'm the strange person that writes about strangers on the street and posts them on the street. And this is...
I feel like that's an understatement. You technically kicked off an entire movement. So, also, I'm Robin. I run a YouTube channel, R.C Waldun. I started as this closeted intellectual sort of person. I talk about literature a lot. I'm just like, hey, here in my garage, just bought this box of books over here. And yeah, I'm really interested in demystifying just literature for common people. Like, there's this academic idea of like, you have to go to university to like become this person that knows your shit. You don't.
Yeah, okay. Fuck university.
It's stupid. Anyone can read literature. So that's my line of work. But then in the future, I really want to branch out into like, there's education, there's application. So I feel like for the past 3 years of YouTube, it's just been me reading a bunch of shit. Now it's time to write shit.
And that's when I met you and I basically showed you the street.
Yeah.
And I showed you all the gritty shit and stuff that makes your toes curl. And somehow you've moved to the city with me.
Yeah, I did.
This is perfect. I like this because this episode is going to be themed around Vibe Union's new weekly poetry night at Ronnies Blue Bar every Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Hell yeah.
Thank you, Amutha, in the background.
Uh-huh.
It's not the tagline is not this because we want to be a bit more mystical and a bit cooler about it, but it's Melbourne's most approachable, most welcoming, most accessible poetry night, and I feel like that ties in very well into what you're talking about. Try and demystify literature, try and make it available and approachable for everybody involved. Mm-hmm. Guys, I know very little about you. I've known about you for a day. I've met you in the flesh 15 minutes ago, as I've already said. I've looked at your Instagrams and your YouTube videos, and you're taking poetry to the streets. Explain that further.
You want to talk about Beat Generation?
All right.
Let's start with Beat Generation, right?
Do you want to start?
No, let's start with Beat Generation.
So I'll talk about the poetry on the street, yeah?
Yeah, you can talk about poetry.
Right. So basically, I'm from the UK. I came to Melbourne just before the lockdown hit. And yeah, it was pretty shit, eh? And basically, everyone looked so sad and lonely and so angry. And I wasn't in a very good space. So I decided to talk to the people on the street because they were the only people who talked to me. And as I started talking to them, they told me all these stories. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of ways to see the world from a different perspective, because when you see the world from below, you're kind of looking up. So, but when you're up, it's hard to look down, you know, without having this judgment, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So basically, they told me all these stories, and they taught me a lot of lessons. And I thought, wow, far out. I probably shouldn't swear.
No, please. I already did as well. As host, I already swore, so don't worry.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna say fuck all the time then. Oh yeah, fuck.
It's like within like the first 2 minutes of YouTube, I think we keep it relatively clear, but
okay,
we've popped the cherry now.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Let's pop the cherry more then.
We've popped it.
So basically, they taught me a lot. So I decided, why don't I write all their stories down that they've taught me on the street and show it to the public? Because, you know, the publishers, the galleries, all these people, they have these golden keys. And the thing is, you're always waiting for that right moment to get this key. And half the time it never comes. So I thought, fuck that. I'm going to post these stories on the street where the stories happened And if the strangers who read them have enough time to stop and read it, maybe they'll feel a bit better, like how the stories made me feel. And that's how I started discovering the street. And since then, I pretty much know a lot of the people on the street by name, and I know how the street operates, and it's taught me a lot. And then through that, I started to post, through the letters, I started doing it. And then somehow I started to meet people. So if someone saw it, they messaged me on Instagram. And then all my best friends in Melbourne have come from these strangers who read my stuff on the street.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, fuck yeah. And then I actually met this dude right here from the letters, technically.
Letters, yeah.
And now we're going to start a movement of no fucks given.
That's not what the movement's called.
Okay, anyways.
It's a good name, though.
All right.
It's a really good name.
That can be a tagline, maybe.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I don't want to talk too much because I'm rambling. So
No, you're not rambling.
It's a podcast. That is literally the medium.
all right, good. So he's going to ramble for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna ramble through. So I'm just gonna tell the story of like how Jay and I met in the first place, just to like contextualize everything. So I started doing YouTube in 2017, like really seriously. I was still in high school and I was miserable as hell. So I was at this engineering school and I'm just like, this is training the freaking soul out of me. I'm just like, there has to be another thing that has a higher purpose. Then I just started reading like a mad person and started writing a lot. And that's how I sort of like fell into the entire, because I grew up loving just classical literature and grew up reading a lot of this stuff. But somehow like somewhere through that period of like 14, 15, I just lost that passion for reading altogether for some bizarre reason. But like had a nervous breakdown at the engineering school. And for the last year at the school, I switched into all humanity subjects and discovered like, oh, this is freaking amazing. But it's taught horribly because 90% of what I've learned was from my bedroom, right? Just for like bookshelves. I just sit down on my bed and just read for an entire afternoon. Just like there's such like untapped potential in like changing the way people view education. So that became like a major focus of the first 3 years of YouTube. And then in that process of like discovering what is education, what is literature, how can literature change life, I'm just like, why don't I just start writing, right? Then I started writing, then I started, reading a bunch. And I think like the major breaking point for me was when I started reading David Sedaris, because classic literature has this very, like this mystique around it, right? This mystique of like, it's perfect, it's prestigious,
it's romantic.
It's elite, it's romantic. If you want to write, you have to lock yourself in a basement. You have to do Benny. You have to like drink coffee. You have to smoke a bunch of cigarettes. You have to have a typewriter, right? You have to have a typewriter. But I'm just like, after reading David Sedaris, I'm just like, that's not exactly true. I mean, sure, he did a bunch of drugs. He was a crazy person. But Sedaris just has a way of writing that just grounds you down into some of the most absurd circumstances. I'm just like, oh, well, I can write like that. So if he can write like that, I can write like that too, right? So Sedaris has this thing of keeping a diary entry every single day. So from November last year, I've always kept a diary entry. So right now I have about like 120 diary entries. So it's basically forcing myself to write a story every day. And my writing just skyrocketed from that place. And then that's when I met Jay. And if you know me, quoting from Jack Kerouac's On the Road, first met Dean not long after my wife and I split up. I'm not married, obviously. But we met. He basically messaged me on Instagram. It's like, you guys know the third wave where we had like a few cases in Victoria and they locked us down? Almost locked us down. But we controlled it. So that's when Jay messaged me. And I was a little freaked out. Because, it's on the brink of another lockdown. Like, who knows if it's going to explode or not. So Jay messaged me. He's like, let's go hit the streets. I was a little hesitant. I'm just like, who is this guy? Why is he talking to me? I'm just like, dude, I'm more comfortable hanging out at cafes than just going out with a crazy person, like talking to all of these people I don't know, right? So I was a little hesitant at first. And then we met together. It was like on a 37 degrees day. He was wearing thongs. For the Americans to listen to here, that's flip-flops. He was wearing this T-shirt with like 3 naked ladies up the front. And I was just like, this guy is weird. And we sat down for a coffee. And he took me to some of these weird places that I've never been. I'm just like, I grew up in Melbourne, in the suburbs. Like cities, just kind of like, I go to the city often enough that I know the city. But he took me to some of the corners that I've like never even heard of. I'm just like...
I took you to the dark side.
Yeah, he did. And I'm just like...
The dark side of Melbourne.
You're from the UK, and you know my city better than I do. So that sort of like spurred on this like curiosity. So I feel like writing, there's like two purposes of writing, right? One's cathartic. It's a very cathartic experience. Second purpose is that writing gives you like a kick. You know, like you're kind of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. But for me, writing is all about this kind of like comedic dark humor, because everything becomes funny at the end, right? You can go through like just absurd stuff. You can go through like a terrible date, terrible breakup, you know, terrible doctor's visit where everyone's rude to you. You can go through like the most absurd crap, and at the end, everything becomes funny in retrospect. So that then carried into my diary entries and all the adventures that we had. You know, just bled into all the absurd stuff. Then I started, you know, overlaying narration over the video blogs, and it's been working quite well. So that's how we met.
Yeah, and Robin kind of brings the academic. Robin's really well read, whereas I'm more a bit. I've lived quite a wild life, so it's like he balances me out in terms of my writing and grounds me in my writing, and I just give him a bunch of wildfire to live in. So it's kind of a power team between the two of us, and we also kick each other's arse. And if I write in shit, we say it's shit.
Hell yeah.
And we break each other down, and then we pick each other back up. And I think in terms of like, if you want to write, you need to build this relationship with other people, not just you, so you can keep getting better. So this is kind of where we're at right now, and
Super strange, and it's just like we've met for how, like we've been together how long? Like
3 months.
We're not together.
God, we sound like a married old couple.
Exactly,
right?
we do. It's
Which
bad,
you kind of have to be writing partners in a sense, right?
Yeah, in a sense.
It's a very intimate relationship.
Kind of like a
nonetheless.
commitment too, but like God, that's such a weird phrase. We've been together for 3 months.
Yeah, shut up. If Echo's listening, she'll
Yeah,
slap
I know.
you.
She just slapped me. But, you know, Echo's absolutely amazing if you're listening.
Yeah, it's my girlfriend, by the way. She's the chillest person on
You're
earth.
awesome. But we've been writing together for like 3 months. It's kind of crazy. It felt like we've known each other for years. But so what happened last Thursday was I finished my French tutorial, and I just walked out of class and I just messaged Jay. And I got super excited because he got a new camera, right? The same camera that I have. I'm just like, that's like the best camera on planet Earth. You need to get one of them. Even though he was like broke AF at the time, he still got one. So I'm like, you're awesome. And we just took these cameras, we went into the streets and shot some absurd stuff. And I stayed over at his apartment. And I'm just like,
We written, edited through the night.
Yeah, we've edited through the night, like 2, 3 a.m. or something. We just crashed. And
then we hit the streets at 8 in the morning again.
yeah, like at 8 in the morning, we went to this convent and had an amazing time there, and then filmed a bunch of stuff, and that was like the second part of the vlog. And I started editing footage for that, so it's up on a YouTube channel if you're curious.
Links below. Links below.
For sure, links below.
Stand up, please.
So after that, I'm just like, so you could live in a city where everything's like together, and you can just like go upstairs and sleep? He's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, I'm moving into the city. Or I'm going to move to the city.
Yeah.
So literally, the night after we went to the convent, I told my parents, hey, I think it's time that I get out of the nest. It took a little bit for them to stomach it, but I'm just like, hey, I got a full-time career now, right? You know, like right now my savings is just like abstract thing in the sky, like kind of like saving up for retirement, but I'm not retiring, right? I'm retiring from a sheltered life, if that makes any sense.
100%.
But I'm just like, I got enough savings and I can do this. So that night I applied for 2 inspections, and basically the second day I inspected 2 apartments. And I also have a teaching job right now. So as I was teaching the creative writing class, my phone started going off, and the agent just started getting back to me. And I was just like, you can move in by next Friday. I'm just like,
I feel like a little devil on your shoulder.
let's do this thing. Yeah.
Just do it. Just do it. Just do it.
That's amazing, and I think is such a not a mirror image almost of exactly, not a mirror image. Basically, just speaks to me and speaks to, I think, all the Vibe Union crew about how we've done things as well in the past. Just to relate myself to your story there a little bit, just because I really appreciate the fact that you started writing a diary every day, especially coming after either feeling disconnected from your work in whatever way. Because I was making music and then my laptop died. Maybe this was maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. And being an electronic musician at the time, that was it. That was my entire life was gone. That was my sense of self died with that laptop. And I knew I was going to get another one, but it was months down the track because I was completely broke. And I had this dark moment, not of getting close to ending things, but just like that thought was like, okay, I've never even toyed with that thought. That means something needs to change. And so I started like, all right, fuck it, I'm going to draw every day. So I started drawing and posting on Instagram and ended up doing that for 2.5 years of posting a cartoon on Instagram every single day. Started building up a community. However, that then also ties into where you're going next with it, was this romantic idea that everyone has of being a creative, of, yes, we should be smoking, drinking, and carrying on by ourselves, just feeling sorry for ourselves, feeling like the world is against us, and that bleeds into our work, and that creates that beautiful romantic work that everybody loves and changes their world, changes their lives, but we're kind of supposed to be miserable. But it was miserable, and that's the rough part about it. Why would you want to live a lifestyle like that? Why would you want to have your work to kill you, basically? And then it all changed meeting these guys, and I was always a shut-in. I was always the last person to go out and the first person to go home from any party. And then meeting these guys, especially just prior to lockdown, we just threw ourselves in. It was like, okay, well, the world seems to be ending around us, so there's no waiting anymore. We just have to start doing it every single day. And even during lockdowns, we started producing tracks remotely because that's all we could do. And then as soon as lockdown ends, we hit the streets. I know it's an obvious truth, but I think it goes unspoken, especially amongst a lot of bedroom producers, bedroom writers, bedroom photographers, what have you, is that you need to feed off other people. That is your energy. That is everything. Because also, who are you doing this for? You're doing this for other people. And I feel like that yeah, you guys have just hit the nail on the head in terms of kind of the purpose behind what you're doing. But the purpose is also the fuel for your creative outlet.
It's like, I mean, you're saying exactly what we think.
Yeah.
You know, like this is quite funny. Yesterday we were trying to write, and I was just sat at my desk for like an hour, and all I got was basically there was this lady smoking a cigarette. She had cherry red lipstick, and I was just watching a cigarette for ages. I think I was hallucinating. I don't know from tiredness. And I was looking at the cigarette, and I felt like that cigarette, and I was just stressing when she was getting to the last puff. I'm like, oh, that's me, because I feel like I'm a cigarette on its last flame, on the brink of burning out. And the thing is, we need someone with another cigarette to put their cigarette into your cigarette to keep the flame burning. You know?
Yeah, I like that.
So it's like exactly what you're saying. Like when a new creative person comes into the process of what you're trying to do, like a kind person at least, you're fueling your next cigarette, and you're not going to burn out. But if you're just alone, man, your cigarette will burn out so quick. I promise you.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's a huge trend on YouTube at the moment amongst creators of like, okay, it's time to actually talk about burnout, because creative process, I think somehow we live in the most social time of humanity and also the most isolated time. And to be a lone creator is potentially hugely exciting. It's hugely validating, but also the work hours is not so much hours, but it is every single moment of every single day you need to be working on your craft to get out to the people. And doing that alone, there is no hope. You are going to completely burn out.
Robin, you can talk about being alone. You've been a lone creator for
ages.
Yeah.
Closeted intellectual.
But you've been
miserable.
doing well. But you've been doing well for yourself, like.
Define doing well.
I mean, you know, like successful, like economically, you can sustain yourself, but you want to do more.
But then I've been a mess, like for the past 3 years of trying to get this thing off the ground. You know, like hadn't had time to not socialize so much, but when I first started, I was working a job, and you know, really burning the candle on so many ends. There's a teaching job, and there's and COVID hit. Sort of like I got suspended from my bookseller job, and then I had to get straight back into the bookseller job, working double the hours to really make ends meet, because I wasn't making any money through quarantine, right? So it was really through quarantine that the YouTube really took off. Then I just sort of realized I had to quit that job. So at first, it was this process of just putting everything on the table, where it's just like no time for going to anything, no time for like connecting with people. And I was a dick for a very, very long time. It's just like people, you do not want to be around me, right? I'm gonna like, you do not want to be like within a radius where my hand can reach your neck, right? Just run away. But especially after writing with other people, because before I was just like, okay, what are you gonna do? Prove that you're better than me? Like, I'm gonna shoot you down with my right. Like, that was the attitude before. But the more I kind of like eventually out of that really hard shell of like this egotistical author's shell, like the more that I realized
not to be an idiot.
So many people are just like better than you from different fronts. You might be a really good storyteller, but your description's crap. You might be a really good person at just description, but your storytelling is lacking a little bit. But then, you know, then it just comes down to how do you like put yourself out there? How do you break over this mentality of like, I'm the lone creative genius? Because that's just not how it works. Like creativity nowadays, like especially without bounds with the internet and everything, it's a collaborative process, right? It's no longer just stupid, just kind of like you're in your closet.
It's like you feed off each other, like what you just said. Like, you know, I'm learning so much. Like when I get to know you, you're gonna right now you're showing me something completely different that I can learn from. And also during the lockdown, I'm from the UK, and man, I was on the brink of basically like the street because I couldn't go home economically, and there was no flights going, and basically all the government was saying was go home.
Yeah,
and it's like there's no flights going, and then like on the social media, there's like a English community. You know, we're all in the same position, and a bunch of bogans were just messaging us saying how we're rats, and like this lady basically invited a bunch of backpackers to sleep in her garden in some inland, and basically the whole town revolted against her and tried to get her arrested for bringing in a virus.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so this is also the reason why I resonate with these people on the street, because I mean, I can't say I know how it feels to be on the street because I didn't go to where they are, but at least I can resonate and feel so isolated and, you know, mentally. And I think it's really healthy to think this way. And yeah, and I worked in construction jobs. I got cracked my head open. This is all quite funny because like,
so far it's hilarious.
Yeah, like, I mean, I worked construction and the boss didn't want us to wear a helmet because he said, you know, you're a pussy if you wear a helmet. And then like a 20 kilogram steel bar fell on my head. And like, I was in the hospital and then I didn't have to work. I got like, you know, I was like, oh no, what do I do now?
You're lucky to get out of it alive.
Oh, it's quite, you know, it's what it is. And
well, it's a 20 kilogram steel bar.
Yeah, I don't know. I did like
deal.
a backflip. Like, it hit me and I did like a backflip when it hit me. I got pictures in the hospital and I was smiling. But
Oh my goodness.
and basically after this, I kind of I went to Tasmania and I did this 10-day. It's called Vipassana. It's like silent meditation. So you're not allowed to speak for 10 days. And it basically, I had this knit like.
Toilet paper.
Yeah, basically, I'm not a spiritual dude, you know, but I left my body like on the meditation. Like I physically, mentally went somewhere, and I went to a place like literal hell, and like I could see, smell, hear, like as if now. And you're not allowed to. You're not in this meditation. You're not allowed to write. You're not allowed to talk. You're not allowed to look at anyone. So it's 10 days of complete isolation. So I just took a bunch of toilet roll. And I wrote 150 pages of a book of where I went on toilet roll, and I've got it in my apartment. And through this experience, like I met Robin before Tasmania, but in this experience, I had these visions like, man, something, you know, the world's always changing, but the thing is the world's never going to change for you. So you got to be a bit more punk and a bit more, like, be nice, but be a bit more rough and just get your work out there and find people who are like you. And since then, yeah, we met Thursday, and since then...
You looked completely different after that retreat.
Probably I'm brainwashed, who knows?
No, you were like, no, like physically, there was like, I wrote this in a diary entry of mine. It's like, Jay looked like he was positively glowing. Like he was like just a person, like he looked like 30% better before he was, I mean, right now he's back. right now he's back to being a stress case. But like the first day when we met up on Thursday, I finished Wednesday or Thursday?
Yeah,
Wednesday afternoon. So I was with my sister in Crimea. So we came out of the station, and I met him and Jaden, and he looked like he was like 10 years younger or something.
Anyways,
there was something about him. Yeah.
But and then so Thursday, I basically spent nearly all my savings on this camera because I saw Robin was doing well, and he was like, "Man, if you get this camera, I assure you, if you work like a dog, you'll be able to do well." And I was like, "Yeah, Robin sounds cool. I'm gonna do that." So yeah, I spent nearly all my savings and I was kind of like worried I'll have to go back into construction or back working just a dishwasher job or something rubbish like this. Because before Australia, I was working for the BBC for like 3 years as a camera engineer, and I had a good job, but then I quit that and traveled the world for 4 years. And I come to Australia, and then reality hits, you have to work again. And then I didn't want to just work a rubbish job, but somehow, since I got this camera and since I've been around Robin, I got a sponsorship so I can create full time this month. And a lady's coming down to film a documentary about my dear stranger with the black magic. She's a producer.
Is it National Geographic?
Or a producer. And then I've got Vice article coming out. So like, I don't know what on earth is going on with this camera, or if it's Robin or things are going well. And it's like this
going places.
Just go full fire, all out, and just don't like.
I don't think it's the camera, but I think it's that you said yes to buying a camera.
Yeah,
exactly. I don't know.
And it was.
It's funny that we did an episode like 3 episodes back, I think, just really cheesy, but about the power of yes. And we didn't go into it with that idea, but it just that theme presented itself. And from that episode onwards, we have continued to encounter a bunch of people of they just like, well, the world's kind of fucked right now, so we might as well just go hard every single day, because why the fuck not? And I mean, like, I got fired last March from my job as a barista, and I had opportunities to go back to work. Don't tell Centrelink that. But it's all fine. I'm doing something for Centrelink now, so they're cool. But nonetheless, like, I realized, like, okay, I'm going to be broke for as long as I possibly can be. As long as if this is my life, I'm going to say that this is my job now. This is my full-time job, regardless of where the money to pay the bills is coming from. And with that mentality, people like you guys show up. That's absurd that you guys are this busy, this active. You guys are that energy that just like makes things happen in life. And for you guys to present yourself onto my couch it's absurd. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's completely
you're doing it too, man. Yeah, exactly. We're all the same. All of us.
Last night, I was like, I didn't plan on staying over, and like that's why I said, like, I sort of feel like I came uninvited. Like Jade this morning literally said, like, we're meeting up with this person, and then she's going to introduce us to these cool people. I'm just like, maybe I want to catch a train back and just like chill at a cafe for the rest of the day, because I'm just so burnt out from all the video work for the past week. And just told Jade, I might just go home at 2 or something. But then the minute that I met this lovely
Saskia,
and I'm just like, there's no way I'm going back home. There's no way I'm going back home. And then last night when we were sitting down and writing and we were watching a movie, when you were writing, I was just dozing off.
You're making a Bumble account.
Yes, I was, for the record.
Echo was helping you.
You've got a good resume to put on there. You got plenty of
do, probably. But then Jay just said to me, like, we're living the bohemian life, right? Shitty small apartment, messy as hell, no offense.
I'm trying to keep it tidy.
Yeah, you're trying. It's not working.
Right, shut up now. Don't come back.
But yeah, little mangy apartment. I'm moving in next week, and we're gonna get something going. And this is literally the start of something.
So all of us right now, like, I feel from you as well, like, there's this attitude for artists in general. It's do it tomorrow, or like we'll come up, we'll come up with an idea. We'll think too much. We'll do it tomorrow. Just do it now.
Yeah. I think everything appears to be really big things. Like, okay, so doing a Vice article, not that I've done one myself, so I can't really speak on the work that goes into it. But like getting something on Vice is huge, but the actual work itself is the same writing that you've been doing every day. It's just putting it onto a bigger platform. And same as like, I've been thinking about like, you know, people running their own gigs and stuff like that, which is what we're doing at the moment. You know, it's to have your own gig and have your own network is really, really, it seems like that's a huge step forward, and it is a really huge step forward. But realistically, it's one email to a venue, it's one message to the artists, and then it's one graphic, and then it's online and it's ready to go. Like the actual little tasks are very, very small. And so if you just like keep going, keep moving, then all these little things just keep getting ticked off, and the world to sound like Amutha, the world responds to your energy and presents what you need to move forward.
Hell yeah.
It's like what you were saying, Rye, when you were saying about, you know, don't worry about making a mistake because everyone makes mistakes. But
Yeah.
Repeat. Yeah.
I've had in my mind for a long time. I've produced like a lot of work, especially musically. I've put out maybe around 10 or so projects, and no one remembers any of them. I barely remember a lot of them because I put them up and then I take them down because there was cool ideas in there, but as a product, rubbish. But I've really tried to solidify in my brain for a long time that if you do something bad, no one cares about you and no one cares about your work at this stage. So like, it doesn't matter. They're going to instantly forget you just because there's millions of people out there doing crap work. But if you just if you keep going, if you keep moving while learning from each project, then if you present something good, they'll remember that. But they'll always forget your bad stuff. It's really just not important. Always keep moving and keep putting out that work, because one day you will hit on something that finally is a culmination of all those little lessons that you learned for every single one of those mistakes that you made.
I got a question back at you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Melbourne's underrepresented in mainstream media?
I think Melbourne and Australia in general has too much of a laid-back attitude in the way it markets itself. I think Americans, for example, they set the standard of just like, you know, for the most part, Vibe Union in its current form is a hip hop community, and so we're around a lot of rappers, and myself being one. I'm never one of those guys who's like, "Yo, bro, you gotta check out my mixtape. It's the hottest mixtape you've ever heard. I'm gonna change the game. This is the best shit. This is fire." Air horn sounds. I'm just like, hey man, if you want to check out my shit, that's cool. That's fine. I'd rather just like, let's get to work on the next project. Let's keep moving. And I think that's very, very Australian.
Super.
I think we undersell ourselves constantly, and so that might be the reason why.
And there's like a thing, like I was recently watching Fran Lebowitz's series, Pretend as a City. So the entire 7-episode series is just a New Yorker that's in her 70s. Is she in her 70s? I think she's in her 70s. But she's like this curmudgeon, hates everything. Just like going around the city. Like 7 episodes, just her complaining about New York as a New Yorker. But then there's this kind of like identity almost. Like being a New Yorker, there are all of these quirks about being a New Yorker. You know, there are all of these weird things that happens in the city. But when I look around Melbourne, we've got one of the craziest cities ever. Like, it's just like, it's not quite European. It's not quite like people like, oh, Australia is just Canada, where people just have funny accents. I'm like, no, this is a completely different place, right? There's a completely different culture around here. So I'm like, you know, because I grew up here in Melbourne, how can I take that element into, for example, how can we have a pretend it's a city for Melbourne? Like, how can I write about these quirky metropolitan experiences? That's where, like, that's the future of my work. So I have a column on my blog called Metropolitan Diaries. The first article that's up, because I worked as an independent bookseller for like a year and a half, and it's 10 guidelines for a local independent bookstore, because I constantly get customers that come in that just do stupid stuff that can just like, that pisses me off and also pisses themselves off. You know, it's just like, there has to be like a guideline for these bookstores. For example, don't just hear about a book on a radio and tell me that it has a blue cover and get mad at me for not finding the book, right? Don't, like, once you take out a book, don't put it back if you don't know where you got it from. I found Lolita under young adult fiction, and I found Star Wars novels under biographies. So I'm like, I wish that were true. So I feel like all these quirks of being a Melburnian, all these quirks of like, you know, how Melburnians never ever wear matching clothing. I mean, I'm putting in some effort today, but like Melburnians have this thing where they can have a beautiful overcoat matched with Nike sneakers. Or they can have like beautiful dress shoes beautiful dress shoes, but like matched with a t-shirt or a tank top. I'm just like, it never matches. And you know why? Psychotic weather. Like weather directly impacts how we dress, right? Because if you're matching everything, there's no way you can just kind of like adapt to the weather. So over time, we developed a superpower of just like having overcoat on, take it off. We just look versatile no matter what. So for me, writing is just this instrument of like capturing what's funny, what's quirky, and just sort of like baking everything to one thing, documenting what Melbourne is as a thing. Like that's my major like obsession right now with writing.
Do you think the laid back? Because I think Melbourne is a very hard-working town, though. And I think you especially see it in the coffee culture here. Is that the hardest working baristas and trendsetters of the coffee scene pretty much live in Melbourne. There are other scenes, or amazing other scenes around the world, but there's no pretending that Melbourne is not one of the most important places for coffee. And I've met some I was in hospitality for 9 years prior to the lockdowns. And
9 years, wow. Just coffee for 9 years? Or
like various things.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Coffee was probably like the last 3 years, I think.
Holy cow.
But it wasn't for me. I'm not an expert in any way, though I did host a hospitality podcast, which was ridiculous. I was the joke guy. That was the straight. No, straight. Doesn't matter. I'm getting sidetracked. The point of the story, my point is amazingly hardworking people here.
Exactly.
But I wonder if that laid back attitude in terms of the way they present themselves, the way that they think of themselves. So like, there's obviously egos in hospitality. There's some massive egos, but also I think there's a general attitude from a lot of people of like, get in there and get the work done because I'm not nearly as important as this product is. Do you think that if we were super arrogant, super in your face, and we spent more time telling people that we were good, would that be detrimental to the work that Melbourne does?
I actually
you want to start? Yeah, you can start.
I actually find I might get shot for this, but I find Melbourne. This is what I've seen, okay? Because I spent a lot of time in Europe and all these different, like China and all these different places.
You've probably got a much better perspective than this since I've been in Melbourne for my entire life, pretty much.
But I find people talking too much about what they're going to do and what they're doing rather than acting upon it. And when they do something, sometimes it's not that special and they think it's the next big thing since the planet happened.
Yeah.
you know? True. And I think this is really unhealthy, and I feel like also Melbourne, this is only my perspective, but Melbourne, I've tried to get involved before this Day Stranger project with creatives, and I've been rejected so many times because I don't fit in. And I think, because in Berlin, let's take Berlin for an example. I operated within the underground techno culture in Berlin for quite a long time, and you've got somebody who's really, really good at what they do, and then you've got a nobody. That somebody will still talk to that nobody on an equal basis and listen to new ideas. Whereas Melbourne, this is only, I said, but Melbourne is so molded. It's like, this is the way it is. And anything outside of that way, people cannot configure it, and they get really anxious. And, sometimes I just feel like bringing a sledgehammer and just smashing this mold to pieces in people's faces and saying, let's rebuild it again. And let's listen to new ideas. Even if you don't agree, just listen. And this is what the street has taught me. Because when you're operating on the street and you're talking to people on the street, you might not agree with what everybody says. But if you really want to be a good writer or observer of the street, you've got to leave your morals, you've got to leave your judgment behind you and just listen. And if they say something absurd, just listen and just nod your head as if you're listening and just make them feel like they're heard. There's a story that really makes my heart warm is there's a guy I call him like the big red Hulk. And he was this dude and his arms were about the size of tree trunks. And he was screaming at the world saying, "The devil is here, the devil is here." And he was huge. And I looked at him and I thought, I'm going to ask this dude what the devil looks like.
Wow.
And
What the hell, man?
I'm surprised you're still sitting here.
you know, I just went up to him and I was like, "Hey, mate, what's the devil look like?" You know, in a very normal way, instead of like, "What's the devil look like?" in a dickhead
Snarky
way.
or anything. Yeah.
Right. And I swear to you, his face just went from bright red to like white, and his fire in his eyes just went extinguished. And he looked at me and he's like, "What?" Like really, really like makes my heart warm. And he was like, "Oh, he went really calm. And he didn't scream anymore." And he said, "Oh yeah, my mother used to hit me, and when I was a little boy, because I used to see little red children flying above my bed when I went to sleep.
Wow.
And every time I told her, she'd bring out the rectifier and with this big wooden spoon and hit me. So all my life, I'm just screaming for someone to listen to me." And it's like, you know, if you looked at this guy and all you heard was this, "The devil is here," and intimidated, you wouldn't speak up. You know, this isn't a very good example, but this is kind of like my idea is like, I want to listen to everybody and I want to hear in between the lines of everybody. And I feel like this is a way that creative movements can can happen. Because,
Sure.
God, I'm rambling, but
No,
like,
No, it's good. No, it's good.
I'm trying to think what to say on the spot, but it's like, I feel like if Melbourne really wants to move forward in terms of creative power, like, when people think of Melbourne, they think of this. Because coming from the UK, when I think of Melbourne, I don't really know anything about Melbourne at all.
That's the thing. That's the problem.
Like, to be honest with you. And if you think of London, you know, it's got such a cultural history. You think of certain things, or you think of rave. You think of Berlin, you think of techno, Berghain. Whereas Melbourne, what do you think of?
Yuppies.
Yeah.
You know.
Coffee and yuppies.
And the thing is,
It's not entirely wrong.
the thing is, like, we just need to accept that we can always keep getting better, like, as a community of people. And then when people from London or people from Beijing or people from Marrakesh, they think of Melbourne, they might have something really cool and positive to think about instead of what do we think about.
That's a big part of what I'm trying to do with the YouTube channel, because YouTube is a very sort of like visual medium. So like, it's just like in your face, right? So before it was like, I'm just a student here in Melbourne, you know, just going to Melbourne University, studying literature. Hi, this is my life. But then I just started thinking about this idea of representation, like representation of different cities. How can New York be a place where Fred Leibowitz literally walks through the city and just complains about the city? How can that have such an impact on like Americans? But why, like for Australia, for example, for Melbourne, for example, why can't we have like something like that? When people talk about, "Oh, I'm a Melburnian," why isn't there somewhere like association of different quirks to that identity? So I'm just kind of like, how can we construct that identity? And through my work on YouTube right now, I'm just trying to document as honestly as I can,
But-
like what's happening on a character.
But Melbourne is such an amazing,
It is,
vibrant city.
yeah.
Like, all you lovely people are here. And like, look at the street, for example. It's mad. And it's not even dangerous. It's just
No.
madness and
Yeah.
chaotic and inspiring. It's like, no one knows about this madness.
Exactly.
You know, that's to me, this is what makes Melbourne special. It's a street.
Yeah.
It's just pure fiery
yeah.
madness.
You guys have inspired the hell out of me. Just
Really?
right now. This is good to hear, and I feel like Jason would have, who is one of the other main. He's our main poet, but he's also running the night emceeing
Tonight.
and on Tuesday.
On Tuesday,
on Talking Blue, and that's the attitude that we're coming at this with. Is that there's this idea. Melbourne thinks it's very multicultural. It's got so many different types of people, but somehow, even within the most welcoming environments, there still feels like there's this status quo that we're not meeting for some reason. I don't understand. There's like hidden gatekeepers throughout Melbourne. It's I think it's a bit subversive. It's a bit under the surface, but they're there, and
Set them on fire.
we want to change. Yeah, we want to change that up.
Yeah.
And I think to speak very proudly of Vibe Union, I think that's entirely what we're about. It's entirely what we're doing, and it's amazing how quickly people have those moments. People like the Big Red Hulk. Those moments of like seeing people just get recognized for a second. Just actually feel welcomed and recognized for 1 second. Everything can just drop away so quickly. And all that guy wanted was just to be heard for a second. That's all you did was just like say, hi, I'm here, I'm listening. And then he just opens up. That's insane. And it's such an easy thing for all of us to do. And that's hopefully what Vibe Union is doing. It's clearly what you guys are doing as well. And
we love what you're doing. It's absolutely like
doing.
Yesterday. It's so funny. Yesterday there was a story. So we go out to the street, and yesterday we were tired, like burned out.
We were dogs.
And we said today we're not gonna go story hunting. We're not gonna find a story, right? 5 minutes after this lady called Liz looks at us and she says, "I want a picture. I want a picture." And she lives on the street, and you know, and she's had her time on the street, and she's only got a few teeth left, and she said it hurts to smile. So we're talking to her, and she's telling us all these things. And when you're talking to the street, like we said, you got to find the meaning between the lines. So usually when you talk to someone, you talk, and then for maybe 10 minutes, no more than 10 minutes, and then basically you write down everything they said in 10 minutes so you can remember anything, dissect it, and then you find the meaning between the lines. She said basically that you can't take a good photo these days. And we were like, what? And she said, oh, yeah, people are always moving. They've got the fidgets, rushing. Their life's like a photo out of focus.
Hey!
You know, and this is Melbourne.
Line.
This is Melbourne, you know, and like this is out there to find these stories. And you people are standing still and seeing life in focus. And more people need to do this. It's so easy.
It's so good.
God damn. What a fucking way to end this little conversation. But before we wrap this up, first of all, big thank you to both of you for coming on.
No problem.
But before we actually hit cut, I'd like to ask you guys if you'd be willing to read us something, read some of your work, read some of your writing.
Start?
Anything you've got.
You go first. I need to pull it up, man.
No, I need to pull mine up.
Let me just pull one from Instagram.
Oh my god.
And guys, also for people listening, this is a very special episode. This is also in promotion. I'm not gonna be around the bush. This is directly to try and promote our new weekly poetry night, spoken word night, any language arts, whatever you want to do with language, whatever you want to do with words, anything. There is a stage for you now at Ronnies Blue Bar every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Vibe Union is there. We are going to be welcoming to all. We've got musicians who are there to back you up if you so choose, if you want some atmosphere, which I certainly really appreciate. We've got Nick Rowan on guitar most of the time, and he's a legend, absolute legend. There's a video actually on this YouTube channel, or if you're listening to it on Spotify, go onto our YouTube channel, Vibe Union, just search it up. And there's a video recap of what we did for the first one. It was amazing. There was a Q&A section at the end where we just had people just... We talked about their poetry, but then we just talked about life, man, and bloody Journeyman came through. He didn't even read. He got there at the Q&A, and we just said, Journeyman, you want to sit down and talk some shit? And he's like, yeah. And he just like talked about basically what we're talking about, just like being open and just seeing people, just taking a second and just like actually just being real and seeing people for who they are. It's an amazing time. Come through, 7 p.m. Sign up. Links in the bio. Links below. Blah, 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 blah.
Have it.
Jay, take us away.
All right. So this is a true story during lockdown. Dear stranger, I met a man living on the street holding a broken guitar. I asked him how he broke it. He looked at me, sad in the eyes. A kid snatched it and threw it against the wall. He thought it was funny. He didn't break it though, just damaged it. There's a difference. What's the difference? I asked. Most people out here on the street aren't broken. They're just damaged, that's all. If people stopped kicking us to the curb and showed smiles for a change, our souls can be repaired. But if you're broken, your soul's dead. You can't be fixed. But guitar's not broken, it's damaged, that's all. There's a difference.
So mine's a diary entry, like on a crazy day where I'm at jail, where everything just sort of worked out. There were so many crazy stories. So this is the 25th of March, 2021, unedited, Melbourne. There are a few days in your life where you will probably end up finding someone, something, a cause that will just derail you from everything you knew. Today was such a day. I went to university for a French test first thing in the morning, and Michael met me in front of Arts West. I'm so screwed for this, he said. I shrugged and looked at him. Hey, we've done quite a few hours last night. You'll be fine. I went into the test and finished 30 minutes early and started drawing a Frenchman on the cover of the test. Michael also finished early, so we both went out of the class while the rest of the cohort was still laboring over their papers in agony. I'm so screwed, Michael said. If I'm lucky, I'll end up getting 50% on this damn test. Oh, well, I said. Can't be that bad. You know what? I actually enjoyed that test. After I parted from Michael, I met up with Jay in front of the state library. We went to the French cafe again, and I spoke with the waiter there in French, and he seemed delighted. He started commenting on everything from how nice Melburnians were to how different Paris was to the rest of France. I nodded in agreement, and he said bonjour, even though, when I left, which was absurd since it was edging towards early evening. He smiled and said, à bientôt, and I was proud of myself. After the coffee, Jay and I spun into a crazy session of taking photos of the streets. It was the same old energy, where the prose flowed through us like water trickling down a stream that never ended. Everything felt right, and it was awesome. We eventually ended up at a McDonald's, and I saw a really cute girl at the counter. She's so cute, I mumbled. She gave you that look too, Jay winked. No, she didn't, I said. Your Brit brain's making that shit up again. She looked at you differently. Jay was certain. Do you want her number? I widened my eyes. No freaking way, I don't even know her. What's wrong with that? Jay said. Do you want her number? If not, shut the fuck up. Do you want it? I chickened out and went down to the streets with Jay and took some more photos. On our way to his apartment, we saw a man in an 18th century regional waistcoat. You know what that man's thinking? Jay said. He's thinking, where did time go? This generation's shit. Where's my people? I laughed, and a fat man with a giant back walked past us and said, to nothing and no one, you fucking asshole, followed by a fuck you at a pillar next to David Jones. Jay and I started laughing again, and we followed him into a shopping mall. After a while, we lost track of him and returned to his apartment. You want to stay tonight? Later on, we figured we needed an adapter for our camera, and Jay's girlfriend Echo went with us to the shop. She spoke to the guy at the counter, demanding a discount, and apparently, because we were cool people, the guy said, okay, I'm going to rip this box open, and I can give you guys a discount. He ripped the box and returned to his station. Damaged in store, 50% off, and that's all yours. Jay looked bewildered, and all that was left was a funny grin on all of our faces, and the night was young, and we were ready to roll.
Echo, you're cool as fuck.
God damn. And this also turned into a buyer, into a shopping tips episode, which is really cool. Guys, thanks very much for coming onto the podcast.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been so inspiring. All the links are below. Please catch us at Talking Blue at Ronnie's Blue Bar. And we're going to end things with some poetry or some spoken word from one of our resident... are you ready? Yeah. From one of our resident OGs, Mystical Amutha.
Okay, wow. Oh, yeah. Don't want to break that. All right, I'll just get straight into it. Let me just get in the zone. Smooth sailing. I can feel exchanging these glances. You're changing your mind. I won't say a thing if you leave me behind. Just wait. Just wait. Just wait. Well, I guess they'll be taking the lead if you don't want. So while you're taking it slow and just sending signals through hell and sprinkle my cells right into the greed of your full cup. Fast track into my future. I deserve some time to just kick back. Yeah, let me stir some restlessness in the comforts of your sheet. You have my soul to keep unless you want to treat yourself to a vacation, migration to the clouds, then settle in fixation, lost yourself in the crowd. Can you find you now? Do you now? Do you now? Oh, wow. But you never knew me, and now you're claiming that you set me free. Oh boy, what a dream. You put my mind at ease? Hell nah, but you really made my madness gleam like mad. Take it back to the time it was you and me. So supplying to the way you made me see. You told me you were going to be the thing to set me free. Are we free? Why do you insist that I don't know about your love? Wolf in sheepskin, disguising that you're my drug. Addicted to the feeling of completion. I am complete.
Bravo.
Bravo.
Wow.